Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about The Hunt for Elswhere by Beatrice Vine. This is another book that one of you guys have submitted to request that I read, and I did, and I've got some thoughts. It is going to teeter more on the sides of like a middle grade book, which when you're writing middle grade, it comes with its own set of problems that I've run into a lot of authors don't seem to take into consideration. Of course, it is also personal preference in the ways that I am talking about this, but there are choices that are made that there are choices people make when writing for children that I just don't jive with. But we'll get into some of that of what's in this book. However, before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lemoy, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creativity, whatever it may be. There are some limits, but that the second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover, I will read that chapter here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. Zero AI is allowed. Do not even try to submit it, or I will find you. And if you are an unpublished author and would like to receive critique on your work here on the channel, there is also now a place for that. So just prepare yourself. As always, my critiques or my responses is just the way that I experienced a work. It is not objective in any way, but it can give you at least a read on how another person is reading your work, and it may inspire you, or it may tell you exactly what you were hoping to hear. Either way, that is what it is. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. And I am currently working on my next novel, The Legend of Bill Cassidy, which features these three right here, but also three others, and it's wonderful. It is an epic, though. It's a multi-book epic, but oh my gosh, it's long. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into The Hunt for Elswhere by Beatrice Vine. And if the cover didn't give it away, this is a book about animals, talking animals. The main character is a fox. He will eventually meet a wolf, and we are dealing with basically, if you look at like Homeward Bound, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Jungle Book, like the characters are animals. So the first page here for the vibe, quote, Vulpes, Vulpes, the fox's fox, the greatest trickster of the woods, is a lonely and cunning creature whose fur burns brightly in the pitch-black night, hot as copper. His courage is fueled by the unflinching desire to live, and his cleverness grows with every brush with death. He walks between man and wild on a tightrope made of gossamer. One step and he is no more. Ever wary, there is no room for such luxuries as love and loyalty, honesty and faith. There is only selfishness and unforgiving necessity. He is a lonely thief, a creature of habit and nothing more. It was late December when a fox and vixen came upon one another in a forest and quickly became mates. By early spring, the vixen became a proud mother and had given birth to a litter of 6 kits. One died immediately after birth, while another 2 fell ill and lived only 2 weeks. The other 3, fortunate as they were, fought one another for mother's milk. They were small, blind, and covered in downy gray fur. Despite looking very much the same, their mother could tell them apart easily and gave them each a special name. She named the first Russell, for he was big and spirited, bright and hot, like a newly born flame. But for all of his vigor, he was also of an ornery sort, prone to announcing his displeasure with an angry nip or a high-pitched bark. The second kit was female. Unlike her older brother, she was quiet and sweet, and she favored burying her little face into her mother's tail for warmth. Mother named her Flynn, believing the name meant a softer shade of red. Then there was the youngest. He was neither aggressive nor demure, neither foolhardy nor overly cautious, and his mother and father could not yet tell what kind of fox he would one day become. Mother waited 14 days for her kit's eyes to open, but by then, the last of the frost had disappeared, and the flowers of every color bloomed across the forest floor. When her still nameless kit gazed upon her for the first time, she realized his eyes pierced more sharply than the tip of a man's blade. and so she named him Saxton, a name that she thought would cut through stone. So most importantly of this, Father Fox is a practical man, and while he provides for his family, he also gives them blunt words of wisdom, including, quote, "Don't talk to strangers. Never stray too far from your territory. Answer to no one." The last advice he could give his kids before everything would change was this: the world is unkind. Everyone lives and dies alone. With this being the prologue, it kind of gives the impression that these bits of advice will be shown through the kids and will either be challenged and then shown to be incorrect, or will be shown to be correct by the kids' lack of doing what they were told. Now, the only character that matters from these kids is Saxton, and if that wasn't obvious with his piercing eyes and his specific name, where he wasn't named much longer after the others were named. The story starts out with Saxton and his family being attacked by hunters. Saxton is separated from the others during the chase, and Dad says to Mom that they need to cut their losses with Saxton and just escape. So he is left to be pursued by the hunters. Eventually, he gets away, but he doesn't know where he is or where his family is, and it's been 3 days, and he is so weak that he has resorted to eating bugs. Something that should be noted here is that he also recognized his sister was in danger of the hunters, and he sacrificed and pulled himself away from his family to go and save his sister. Now, interesting that he has that kind of compassion and bravery, but his parents don't, and so, like, it's natural to him, but it is unnatural to everyone else in his family because nobody else would do what he did. Now, he is swept into water, and shortly after landing, he passes out, believing himself to be better off if he had only just not gone looking for his sister Flynn and had only looked out for himself instead. Saxton wakes up to a crow hanging over him that is surprised to see that he is still alive. They chat, and we find out that the bird's name is Quill. Quill offers to help Saxton find his family. When asked if he is telling the truth about helping, Quill is like, "I may not be, you might just have to trust me." So Quill heads out and looks around for Saxton's family after getting a description and comes back with nothing. He says he'll ask some of his bird friends if they have seen anything. The next morning, Saxton wakes up to Quill talking to another bird that suggests the foxes may have all headed to North Dakota in order to escape hunting season. Quill brings this information to Saxton, and we get this exchange, quote, "Avon said something about North Dakota," he began. "What's that?" "It's a neighboring state, a human territory, if you will," Quill explained. "It's a territory. The territory we're in is Montana. Both states and 46 others comprise the entire land our feet are resting upon. The land, this country, is called the United States. Of course, there are many more countries in the world, Italy and France, for instance. I'm a bit sorry that my wings can take me only so far." Do all of you birds know this stuff? Not all, but many see human language as a very useful thing. In fact, there are other creatures that also use it, like the rats. They stopped before the modest set tucked beneath 2 rocks. Quill turned to Saxton. "Now, before I knock, you must promise me not to pounce, maim, or otherwise harm and eat the neighbor with which we are about to speak. Do you think that you can do that?" As if it was listening, Saxton's stomach grumbled. He sighed. "All right, I will." In case you weren't sure before, this definitely feels very youthful in a way that it's talking and like the audience is for a kid. Quill takes Saxton to his friend, Miss True, who suggests that they talk to Mr. Badger about the things that he has smelled. He's a mangy-looking thing with issues and gives off a few scents before finding one that Saxton confirms might be his mother. Quill and Saxton now have a direction to go in. Quill directs Saxton to be grateful for the help before they leave, and Quill gives Saxton a lecture about his attitude. Quote, "The crow and the fox departed, and as soon as they were out of earshot, Saxton released a shudder that he had been suppressing. Ugh! He was so mean and ugly." Quill looked at the fox in surprise. "What's this? You're complaining now? I wish that we could have talked to someone else, but we didn't have a choice, did we?" He wrinkled his nose. "And his smell." The crow abruptly flew before him, his eyes sharp. "Saxton, that mean, ugly creature helped you just now. Is he really so mean and ugly?" "You saw him. If Miss Shrew didn't act like she liked him, I probably wouldn't have trusted him." Clearly disappointed, Quill sighed and shook his head. "Listen to me carefully. There are many cruel creatures, and there are many good ones, but rare are those who are truly evil or righteous. If you give someone a chance, regardless of their temperament or their appearance, more often than not, you will bring out the good in them." "So you're saying I gave him a chance?" "No. He was the one who gave you a chance. It would serve you well to think about that." Saxton worries that his family might not be where they're going. And Quill uses this as another life lesson moment. Quote, "The crow remained calm. If they're not there, then at least you will have had the most interesting journey. You need to be more optimistic, Saxton." He looked to the ground as he walked. I don't know what that means. It means to hope, to believe that everything will fall into its proper place. I can't tell you with any certainty what tomorrow holds, but I can tell you that whatever happens was meant to happen, for better or worse. Quill stopped walking and turned to Saxton, making sure that their eyes met. "There is no use in stewing over what we can't control. For now, we can simply choose to be happy." As they travel, Quill tells Saxton about streets and street safety. They come across a farm where Saxton's instincts take over and he bites a chicken. This alerts a dog who guards the chickens, and Saxton barely gets away. Quill lectures, quote, "Your life depends on your choices. You must make wise ones, or you will pay a very heavy price. Do you understand?" They turn in for the night, and while Saxton is sleeping, an owl comes to visit Quill, getting the lowdown on the gossip of what exactly Quill is doing with the fox and telling him how dangerous this is. Saxton wakes up while the owl and Quill are talking and hears them. It makes him feel bad to hear himself being talked about in this way. Quote, "But Saxton's large ears were powerful, and his chest tightened upon hearing the owl's truthful words. Echo was right. He was growing larger and hungrier, and every so often felt enticed by the notion of attacking and devouring his one and only friend." His eyes narrowed at the word friend. Quill had mentioned that he might one day make one. Though the word was completely alien to him, somewhere inside of him Saxton knew what it meant. He couldn't define the word with speech, but he could define it by the complicated feeling it left inside of him. When he thought of Quill, he thought of his father, protective and practical figure, familiar with the ways of the world. But unlike father, he was kind, patient, and possessed a knowledge that never ceased to amaze him. The fox felt not only safe, but happy. Happy even when the crow was a little cross with him, and that, he thought, was quite odd. Because of this, Saxton believes that he has to leave or run away. When Quill gets back, he panics about Saxton being missing and looks for him everywhere for days. Eventually, he finds him and asks why he ran off the way that he did, and Saxton admits that he heard the owl and the crow talking about how dangerous he is, and he agreed. He thought about eating the crow, and so he thought that the best thing to do was to leave. Quill says that he may have thought about it, but he stopped himself, and that there is trust there. He is also taken aback by the answer. Quill is endeared. Saxton asks about Quill's family, remembering that he hasn't talked about it much, and finding family is important since, the owl had also told him to go and spend time with his family. Quill says a little bit about his family and insinuates something happened to them. Saxton asks Quill if they can be family, and Quill is like, yeah, we can for a little bit. As they travel, Quill tells Saxton a story about a white bird that doesn't fit in with the others and begins talking to the moon about how lonely they are. The moon then invites the bird to keep company with it, and this is the story of how stars were born. Quill tells this story often and then reflects on how soon the journey with Saxton will be over and he will miss Saxton. They then come across a mother bear and a cub who are singing together. Quill and Saxton observe the bears, and he is told to respect them. A male bear shows up and attacks the mom, and she defeats him. Saxton is like, "Whoa, she is so strong," and Quill says, "Never underestimate the love a mother has for their child. It is warm and bright and fiery and sometimes violent." Eventually, Quill mentions how Saxton is starting to grow into a man and he needs to learn how to live on his own. Saxton says that he can just learn from his family when they catch up, but Quill is like, "Bro, your family doesn't want you half as much as you want your family." Again, this is a weird choice because, while Saxton is naive to things, his family, despite his dad being as practical as his dad was, his dad, didn't prepare him to be living on his own, for one thing. Number two, this implied that it is instinctual for the foxes to be on their own, that once they hit a certain age, they despise others. Specifically, the male foxes despise other male foxes. And yet Saxton has zero clue and zero instinct, while every other fox that he will ever meet is going to have those instincts. It makes him out to be like this super special that is so unlike anybody else in a way that doesn't make sense because it's calling it instinctual, so what, he was born without instincts of a fox? And I know part of this is for having Saxton learn to be more open-minded and to take lessons from Quill, but it's so obvious to everybody else that this is the way of the world, that this is instinctual of your kind, and yet it's not ever reflected in Saxton. Quote, he lifted Saxton's tail with his beak and showed him its now white tip. Seeing his confusion, he dropped the tail and explained, your fur is fully red now, and soon you'll stop growing. You must learn the basics of living on your own and fast. That's all right, the fox replied. My family can teach me when we find them. That's just the problem. By the time we find them, if we find them, I'm not sure that your mother and father will take you back, especially your father. He is male and territorial. He'll see you as not a son, but as a rival or possible threat. Perhaps worse, if he finds that you can't pull your own weight, he'll see you as a burden. Saxton swallowed a lump he found rising in his throat. But what happened to optimism? He weakly joked. At this point, it's time to be realistic, Quill said sternly, by preparing for the worst possible outcome. Glancing around them, the crow nodded to himself. I will teach you some survival skills. Fortunately, you're a bright young fox, and a lot of what I will teach you should come naturally. So, that's brutal. I don't really much like this bird. Also, probably looking at it in a weird way, but I know, and because I know they're animals, so whatever. But there is something about an older mentor guy stumbling upon a naive babe who then goes, hey, your family doesn't want you, so you should trust me more than your family, and we're probably just going to abandon your family because they don't want you anyway. Trust me, bro. I can buy how they're non-human. I can buy into the author's own interpretation of behavior and characterization for the animals and even getting creative with it. But there is something weird to me about the bird just being like, I'm gonna miss that fox child when I've only spent a couple of days with it, but this family will not miss him at all, but will see him as an enemy. So you're telling me that we can twist instincts so that a fox can become friends with a bird in this story, but not so that the little fox's family will have anything to do with him? It's just to, like, forcefully cast him out? Granted, Dad already said cut your losses when it came to Saxton and his sister. It's just a bizarre treatment to me. I'm also confused by the following section where the crow is teaching the fox how to be a fox and what his instincts actually are, since the crow has to teach him. I'm not sure that this translates well. Quote, you, Saxton, are no less a vulpes vulpus, which is Latin for the renowned, the crafty, and the willful red fox. Though you're from the same family as the wolf, your lineage is very different. You are a solitary hunter, not a pack hunter, and your kind prefers to stalk their prey rather than give chase. In many ways, you're similar to a feline. Do you understand what I'm saying? I guess so. Second, foxes, however reclusive, must learn to speak well. Please say I suppose so rather than I guess so. While other animals depend on brawn and poison or flight, foxes depend on their intelligence and stealth. When you find yourself cornered by a stronger animal, you have only two choices. The first, as you are well aware, is to flee. The second is to convince your hunter not to eat you. You can only do that with confident speech and ingenuity. Quill then orders Saxton to catch the rabbit he just took him to. I think it might have been better to have Quill demand that and then watch Saxton, then explain his instincts after Saxton was like, whoa, how did I just do that? Also, how is I suppose so better than I guess so? Talking with confidence feels like a better example with yes. After Saxton successfully catches a rabbit and is shown how to hide his food from the wolves, he is told that it is safe to go and see his family now. The conversation goes like this, quote, may we look for my family now? Yes, you are ready. That's good. I miss my mother and sister. It'll be nice to see them again. Quill cocked his head to the side. What about your father and brother? Saddened, Saxton lowered his head. Father believes I'm a fool, and brother believes anything that father says. He says that he is seen as a fool because, as example, when the hunters attacked and sister fell behind, he was told by his dad to run ahead, but he didn't, and instead distracted the hunters and got left behind while his sister was saved. The crow says, you are not a fool. I don't understand why we're having this conversation when Crow literally just told him that his dad would see him as a threat when they got back. Can we decide on how we're going to approach this? Why would he be excited if his mom and sister will be like, yip yip hooray, but his dad will be like, I'm gonna rip your throat out, you Oedipus complex having lupine? Which is also a weird thing here. Might see you as a rival, a love rival for his sister and his mom? Do we need to bring this up with animals? Like, if you're gonna go animal, if you're gonna go fantastical animal and humanize the animals, you don't need to keep in the weird sex stuff. I'm just saying. Especially for a kid's book. That's the big thing, is it's a kid's book for small brains. For brains that are still learning, and you're filling it with questionable things. A random fox catches Quill and tries to eat him. Saxton saves Quill, and then Saxton and Quill catch up to Saxton's family. First his sister, then his brother. His brother fights him and tells him that no one wants him, and has to be beaten by Saxton before he lays off. Though his sister Flynn is super stoked to see him. They bring him back to the den where his mom is super excited and wants to eat all of their food in celebration, but Dad is grumbly. Dad insults Saxton for talking too much like a crow, whose fault is that, and coming back when everyone was fine. He's nearly an adult and he should have stayed away. You would think that Dad would be proud of him. You think that Dad would see how cunning he is. I get what we're doing here, but also it still doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why Dad is so violent at him. Does Dad not have this relationship with the other brother, Russell, his other son, or is his other son fine? This just feels like specifically trying to be dysfunctional to make us combat with the son so that he's outcast. But I think that there would have been better ways to do what the story is trying to do, because the story is not about the reunion of this family. I hope you know, because this is just the beginning of the story. This is the first act. And then when he leaves the family, is going to be the end of the first act. So anyway, obviously this family is brutal, and there is no conversation from mom or sister, apparently, in regards to the way that Dad and brother are treating Saxton. It's like, hey, you're already 11. Why the frick aren't you out of the house making money, you slacker? Now this made me think of Spook's Apprentice, when that's basically what they did to the main character. They were like, your brother wants to take over the farm, you need to get out of the house and go get a job, you 10-year-old. Freeloading 10-year-olds, am I right? Saxton spends some time with his family, hunts with them, lounges with them, wants to go on adventures while they do not, and tries to tell them story of the Silver Crane. Russell just insults it as being stupid. Eventually, Saxton decides that he doesn't fit in with his family and tells them that he's leaving. Dad doesn't stop him, Mom invites him to visit any time, Russell follows him out to insult him about choosing a bird over him, and here you get an argument between them. Quote, "Let me guess, you don't want to leave the sky murderer behind? Stop using those words, they're cruel." He gave a derisive snort. "They're just words, and they're cruel," Saxton insisted, but he realized his battle would be as productive as arguing with a basin wall. "You're right, though. I'd rather stay with Quill if this is how you turned out." To his amazement, his brother was not incensed. Rather, he looked inquisitive. "You'd rather be dependent on others instead of self-reliant and strong?" His tone was neutral, and if Saxton was generous, he would say that Russell almost sounded concerned. Regardless, he shrugged off the sentiment, thinking that he was hearing what he wanted to hear. "I would rather think for myself than believe everything I'm told," he retorted. "Well, that's funny. You believe everything that crow of yours tells you. So tell me, how does that make you any different from me? I don't want to be alone in this life," he said. "Our kind is selfish. We have to be." For a moment, it seemed as if Russell wanted to express something that he could not put into words. At a loss, he fell back on old habits. "One day, you'll see. You'll see that you'll choose yourself first, and you'll do it to live." Since he did not know what the future would hold for the both of them, Saxton chose not to argue. "Good luck, Russell," he said at length. "I doubt that we'll see each other again, but if we do, I'll stay out of your way if you stay out of mine." Now, this interaction reads odd to me because the entire thing with Russell, and to a lesser extent Flynn, the foxes are played off as stupid. They don't get his language, his stories, the creativity, and yet we're told that foxes are sly, that language is important, that language is a part of their survival instincts, that they're smart, that that is what they rely on specifically, that it is instinctual that that is what they do, and yet every other fox that we are introduced to here, especially in his own family, is dumb, is an ignorant knuckle dragger for lack of other words. This is really just to elevate Saxton more as to how he is not like his family when it really doesn't make any sense. The difference between Saxton and Russell actually creates an idea that conflicts. Are they supposed to be realistic dumb jocks like Russell, or are they supposed to be sly tricksters who use words wisely and that's how they get around things? Because the big conflict here is linguistic, and Russell is unable to use words to describe his feelings, which doesn't really appear correct if what the crow said was true. After leaving his brother and saying have a nice life, psych, Quill is waiting, watching, and has been the whole time. Once he reunites with Saxton, it's like, quote, "When Saxton came upon familiar grounds, a voice from above softly asked, 'Why didn't you return to them? Your brother, however brusque, has good intentions.'" He winced. You weren't supposed to see that. I asked you a question. Too tired for another lecture, the fox gave in. Your family, Quill. I can't simply leave you. The crow seemed pained by this. Not only are they your kind, they are your family by blood. I am short on both counts, and neither of those things matter to me. He frowned and shook his head. My family. They are so hollow and cold. Seeing the way that they live, it saddens me. Don't judge them too harshly, Saxton, Quill said with a measure of caution. There is no right or wrong way to live. Whatever our choices, we are all simply trying to get by. And there really isn't much difference between us and them, you and me. The crow paused. Are you sure that you do not wish to return to them? I don't want you to regret your decision. Unless you want me to leave, I've made my choice. I'm happy to be your friend, your family. It's enough for me. For a long time, Quill didn't know what to say. Perhaps how to say it. I am happy to be yours. Again, this is weird, and it feels like this conversation is only happening to have the conversation to be family without blood, but like, he is so quick to be dismissive of his family, for one thing, to be like, they all suck, and like, I'm sad that they live this way. It's like the person that goes off from the family and makes a bunch of money and then comes back to the family and then sees how they live and is just like judgmental, and I don't want to be seen with them, okay? It seems less about them and more about justifying how to have Saxton leave, when in reality, I think this could have been better if he had a happy reunion, but after having been on an adventure with Quill, he wasn't satisfied with being with his family, that he would prefer to be traveling. And so then it's a sad thing to leave because he loves his family, and it's not done antagonistically. It's done where he's got the love of his family, but he wants more from life. I think people often default on making situations where somebody is bad because they have an easier time than exiting a situation instead of just letting it play out naturally. You know, often it happens in, like, I'm going back to Guns and Smoke here, but there are other ones too, where you introduce a new character who is supposed to be there, like Clara for Jesse, his ex-fiancée, and instead of just having it be like Jesse had moved on, he had mourned the loss of his wife because he thought that she had died, but then she turned out to not be dead. But it's like, you could say that his mind had already moved on and his heart had already moved on because he'd made peace with her death, and so he wasn't in love with her anymore, and yet instead it had to character assassinate her in order to justify, oh, see, you're right for leaving her, and Bonnie was right all along. And it does this so, stories do this so often, and to me it's immature. It's not to say that you can't have situations where there are bad things and that is what causes somebody to leave a situation, but like the default in this situation, he was so excited to see his family, but his family was all garbage, and the crow was saying your family is garbage from the beginning, and then you get here and then he is dissing on his own family. The other thing is Quill saying don't judge them too harshly, everything is subjective, right and wrong is subjective. Like, you can say that on certain things, but the fact that this is for a kid's book makes that idea more dubious to me. Because there is actually a sense of right and wrong. Now, is there a sense of right and wrong in the animal kingdom? No, not really. Again, we got weird amounts of anthropomorphization in this, where it can't decide if it wants to make them animalistic or if it wants to give human level lectures. But I don't think that it solidly created the idea that it needed to create in order to sell this appropriately. And so then the conversation just comes off weird and inappropriate. Also, I can't believe that Quill is surprised that Saxton returned to him, because he was the one that told Saxton his family wasn't going to want him in the first place. And he thought that Saxton was going to want to hang out with his family that is just, like, not chill with him. Really? Now Quill and Saxton are hanging out under the stars, and Saxton is asking what happens when animals die. Quill says that there are a lot of beliefs. He and the crows believe in souls and passing things on to their young, which is why they all share knowledge, because that's how you achieve immortality. He then asks where the term sky murderers came from, and the two talk about breaking stereotypes. Quote, "And lonely thief? Foxes are solitary creatures. They steal, lie, and cheat at any opportunity for the sake of survival." Saxton knew Quill wanted to qualify his statement. He prompted him, But, for all of your species' acts of selfishness and deceit, only you can choose how you want to lead your life. Lonely thief can describe any number of foxes. Do you want that title to describe you?" The fox lay on his back and yawned widely. "No more than I would like to be called Sky Murderer." Quill smiled. He playfully poked the fox's belly with his beak. Saxton flinched and recoiled. "Ow! Hey! What was that for?" "Your name is Saxton, and you have a soul. Treasure it, for you only have one." So this is also a weird interaction following after the crow saying not to judge anyone because everything is subjective, because he's also now judging the fox and foxes in general with being selfish and liars and deceitful when it should just be considered a manner of survival. Yeah, now Saxton is bothering Quill about helping Quill find his way to his family, and Quill says no and calls optimism the most cringy thing that you can have after a certain age. Quill was the one that brought optimism to Saxton. What are we doing here? Is this just like, again, another soundbite where it doesn't make sense for the character? What a weird statement. Saxton brings up visiting Quill's family again and again and again until later at night, Quill is thinking how maybe his family isn't mad at him anymore and he should return home, and he wants to return home. In the morning, he says to Saxton, quote, "I've been thinking. I don't know why I never saw it before. It's so obvious, really. Maybe that was why things happened the way that they did. Maybe it was fate." "What was fate?" "That everyone's gone." Though Quill's eyes were bright with tears, his voice happy. "Now I understand. You can lose all of your ties by blood, every last one, but new family can find you too. Life does not move when one dwells on what is gone. It moves with change and love and forgiveness. I nearly wasted my life, and then you came along. Quill, I'm ready. Let's go. To Exeter, to New Hampshire. I want so much to see my sister again. And if I can return to the soil that I came from, well, my life would be complete." Again, a weird situation to set up saying that blood doesn't matter, you choose your family, and then immediately saying being with his blood relatives would make his life complete. I think this book is attempting to hammer home themes of home and family, but it's contradicting itself constantly. They run into a vulture that Quill knows, who points them in the direction that they are looking for his family in, since everyone is about to move with winter coming. Now that winter has come, as they travel further, they get attacked by a wolf. The wolf maims Quill, but eventually it gets caught in a trap, while Saxton gets away. Saxton picks up Quill and gets them both to safety in a nearby barn. Quill is too damaged that he eventually dies fairly quickly, but not without Quill admitting that he lied to Saxton about not knowing where Saxton's family was in order to keep him from finding that. Saxton doesn't care. They were apparently so near to his family that they could have found him immediately, but Quill wanted to keep him away long enough that he would grow up so that he wouldn't care about them and wouldn't want to return to them. That definitely does not sound like some sort of grooming situation, some sort of kidnapping situation under the guise of helping. And then Quill calls him, and then Quill calls Saxton his son mentally, tells him that he is a good seed with a good heart, and that he should give him more, and that he should give himself more credit. I'm still stuck on the fact that Quill lied to him about helping him find his family so that he would grow up and then his family wouldn't want him and he wouldn't want his family. So that also means when he was surprised that Saxton came back and chose him over his family, that was all an act because he did it on purpose. Now, with this moment between the characters, I personally didn't feel like I actually got to see the characters grow together, but that might just be my expectations as an adult reader, as this is just kind of telling you everything that happened and telling you their relationships and rushing them along, so do take that into consideration, because books written for children are written different than books written for adults. Saxton mourns his dead bird friend in the barn and buries him and befriends the horses there. He then finds the wolf who attacked him yesterday, still trapped in the trap, and offers to help him if he promises not to attack anyone else like he did. The wolf says, quote, "I understand." The wolf says, quote, "I understand. But what I don't understand is you. Why are you doing this?" "Because I believe in choices, and I choose to be kind." The wolf considered his words. The wolf agrees to the terms that Saxton has set and is made free. The wolf thanks Saxton and travels with him for a bit. Saxton loses his black feather that he took as a memento from Quill as it flew away in the air. He nearly gets stampeded by some deer/buck when the wolf saves him. The wolf calls him stupid for risking himself over a dumb feather. Saxton gets mad and banishes him to go somewhere else. The wolf in fact, does Leigh. Now, Saxon is traveling on his own again and wondering if he's made a mistake. He feels like following through with the feather is kind of whatever, because he feels like he did enough of a service by sparing the wolf. So, like, that would honor the memory of Quill and Quill's lessons. However, he loses the feather again because he's just carrying it in his mouth, and he runs into a bear cub. He tries to help the bear cub, but the bear cub eventually falls to its death off of a cliff. The mother bear is looking for the child and finds it at the bottom of the cliff, no longer living. The mother bear is hanging over her dead baby's body at the bottom of the canyon and screams at Saxon for killing her son. The wolf shows up randomly, and the two of them make away from the angry bear who wants to kill him, and the wolf claims that he is still trying to make things right with the fox as he still owes him. I would think, you've saved his life twice now, I don't think you owe him anything, so you're now just making excuses, but a lot of animals in this book lie. Quote, "There are two parts to forgiveness," Quill had once told him. "Someone can apologize and mean it, but that is only half of the process. The one who is slighted, the one who is hurt, must let his unhappiness go in turn. That is why it is easier to ask forgiveness than it is to give it." The wolf offers to catch dinner for them and does. Saxon is super impressed. They trade names. The wolf's name is Dante. Saxon announces his plan to go to New Hampshire as that's where Quill wanted to go before he died to visit his family. Dante says that it's very far, but he'll go with him. They get cornered by Mama Bear, who still wants to kill Saxon for the death of her child. They get away by jumping into a train cart at the last second, and the train cart was moving. Saxon is still upset about the dead cub and is like, "Things happen for a reason, right?" That's what they say. I think the phrase "this happened for a reason" is grossly misused. It's not that things are happening so other things can happen. It's things don't happen in a vacuum. Yes, things happen for a reason, and if you look into why those things happened, you can see kind of what led up to it. It doesn't make it okay if it was a bad thing, but it's just things don't exist in a vacuum. The other weird thing about this situation is he is so upset about killing that bear. He had no qualms about killing the rabbit earlier. He is a predator. He kills to eat. He is a carnivore. He does this all the time. He's likely had to do this during the entirety of his travels with Quill. So why does he feel particularly bad about killing the bear, but not about anything else that he has ever killed in his life so that he could eat? You won't see him have any sort of guilt like this over the wolves that he's gonna kill later. Dante obviously laughs in Saxon's naive face because he thinks optimism and niceness is cringe. Quote, "Life can be a terrible joke. Don't expect it to do you any favors because you think that you've got the moral high ground." There's a rat inside of the train who claims that the train is its home and wants nothing to do with the dogs, so they better get the frick out. The wolf is like, "Big words for a little bean I could just step on and eat." This creates the conflict of brain versus brawn because the rat is supposedly smarter than the wolf. Quote, "What I lack in size, I make up for in brains, but seeing as wolves are nothing if not brawny, I guess that you can't appreciate that." Dante bristled and growled. Saxon stepped in front of him. "I hope you realize that by angering my brawny companion here, you're only tempting him to tear you apart. For all of your so-called intelligence, your attitude is foolish. Tell me, have you ever heard of manners?" Intrigued, the rat raised his eyebrow. "I'm a rat. I've got no use for niceties, and attempting danger is par the course." He pointed to Saxon. "You're a fox. What do you know about manners?" "Certainly, more than you," Saxon scoffed. I feel like the whole thing there with him being like, "I'm a rat. I know all about this stuff," was so unneeded, and it could have just been like straight, "You're a fox. What do you know about manners?" So then you can, but it feels like it needs to explain itself before it gets into anything. I think this whole thing with foxes having no manners and somehow everyone mocking them over it is bizarre, when admittedly they all have no manners. If manners aren't a big deal among any of the animals, then why not just not care or be openly racist against other animals? Like, who cares? What do manners get you in the animal kingdom? Trying to pretend that they don't matter, but then also being like, "Yeah, I have manners. I know what manners are, but manners don't matter. Manners suck, but I got manners. What do you know about manners?" Just doesn't make any sense, and it's weird posturing in this story. Saxon gets the rats to make a deal with them to tell them how to get rid. Saxon gets the rats to agree to help them get to New Hampshire by teaching them how to read. The rat agrees because he will tell everybody just how smart the rat is, but the rat also wants something tangible, not just bragging rights that he has no idea if the fox will even follow on. So he says, bring me some food from the food store on the train and I'll help you. The fox gets the keys from the engineer, gets food, and the deal is done. The rat teaches Saxton and Dante how to read while they are traveling, and they learn it faster than a human possibly could, and learn all of the alphabet and also all of the numbers overnight. They then get to a train station, and the rat gives them directions on how to get to New Hampshire, then turns Saxon's feather into a necklace so he doesn't have to lose it by carrying it around in his mouth anymore. The rat wishes the two good luck, and then they part. Dante and Saxton get into a spat because they both fell asleep and missed their stop at the train station. Saxton starts yelling at Dante over it, and Dante is upset because he is trying to do right by Saxton, but Saxton will never truly forgive him, but he's only giving Dante a chance because Quill would have told him that he should, and not because he actually wants to, which means that he'll never be good enough. Quote, the wolf passed a wry grin in return. You say I owe it to Quill that I'm alive. You're right. I do. But you forget who it was who cut the wires in the first place. You didn't have to do that. Most would say that you shouldn't have done that. Your friend is gone and it's my fault. That's not an easy thing for me, and I know that it's definitely not an easy thing for you. I get it. But I'm not gonna give up. Moving closer, Saxton sat beside Dante, seeing him for the first time as someone with a past and a set of ideals that were all of his own. You're a tenacious wolf, Dante. Your parents did well by you, and I wish that I could say the same about mine. My father always insisted that foxes should never stray too far from their territory. The world, he said, is a cruel and dangerous place. In some ways, I suppose that he was right. If I hadn't been so stupid and stubborn, if I had been more rational and selfish, Tarlo might have survived. He turned away and gestured toward the vast land full of tall grasses and sprawling roads. The earth was green and gray, a collision of the patience of nature and the brute force of man. My other father, Quill, insisted that there is so much to see in the world that it would be a shame to not explore it. He believed in kindness and second chances, and wished for me to one day make a friend. He gazed at the filth on his paws before looking at Dante again. So, here I am, far from home and seeing so many things, all because you're here to make sure that the world is not so cruel and dangerous, and yet I don't really know who you are. I've treated you quite poorly, and didn't even think that maybe you were the friend that I was meant to meet, even if I had lost one that I already had because of it. He paused and put as much sincerity in his voice as he could. So, can we start over? Dante shares very little about his background and suggests that there was some drama in his pack and he was kicked out, but doesn't want to get into it. Eventually, trying to find their way, they stumble into a junkyard, get chased, and then fight some junkyard dogs, and Saxton seeks refuge in a vehicle that is then picked up and dropped into a crusher. This is giving me like Brave Little Toaster vibes when they were about to get crushed at the junkyard. Now Saxton is stuck, tangled in the car, about to be crushed, while the wolf is fighting with the two dogs. Dante saves Saxton before being crushed in the car, and they bargain with the junkyard dogs to get to stay the night if they stay out of the way. They learn that the female dog's name is Marsh, and she hates it because she is a woman, and that is a man's name. What does she know about gender coding and gender roles? Like, she's a dog! You could be named Cupcake or Meat Stick. They bring the wolf and the fox to where they can spend the night and hang out. Somehow, I'm so confused on this. The wolf didn't know how to read before, but somehow knows the full history and mythology behind Mars and Venus. Because the wolf was the one that explained what Mars was and how it was such a strong name and how she should be so proud to be called Mars because Mars is kind of a big deal. So how did he know all of that mythology, but he couldn't read? Where did he learn that from? Now we've got this freaking weird conversation for a middle grade book. This doesn't need to be in the story because it has nothing to do with the actual actions of anything happening. The two get angry about not being able to have babies because they've been fixed. Why is this in a kid's book? Why does this need to be discussed in an adventure story between a fox and a wolf trying to get to New Hampshire to bury a friend? The language of the story and the relationships are for such a younger audience that it makes no sense to add in random drama about shooting blanks because of being fixed and to demonize spay and neuter. Quote, Mars and I are, getting on. Pups are out of the question, and she's more than a bit upset about it. Out of the question? Dante repeated. Why? We're both fixed. Mars spat. Seeing that neither Saxon nor Dante understood what that meant, she explained, "That means the humans, they took our ability away to have pups." Saxon frowned. "Why would they do that? How?" "We don't know." "We don't know why," Saxons replied. "And as for how, you don't want to know. Anyway, I don't see how human logic works, seeing as they get all up in arms about having their own young. Fickle guys, aren't they?" "That's terrible. It's not right," Dante commiserated. Marsh shook her head. "Well, life ain't fair. I was born big, brawny, and ugly, and I was given a male's name. And I can't have pups. What am I supposed to do?" "Don't talk like that, Marsh," Sputnik gently scolded. "I love your name, and I love you. And don't even get me started on how gorgeous you are when you smile." What does this dog know about beauty standards? Doesn't it have beauty standards within its own breed? Why are we putting these human issues on these dogs? Like, this does not work for me at all. We don't need to be demonizing spay and neuter in a children's book. And just the fact that I was born big and brawny and ugly, compared to what? What is your ideal dog breed? Is there not like just a difference between different dogs and somehow they've got ideal beauty standards for dogs? Who is telling these dogs that they need to be an Afghan? Now, I was also reading this at a time shortly after I had gone to a pet store and they were having Adopt Kitten Day. And they had 2 kittens that were in a little incubator box because they were maybe 3 or 4 weeks old. They were still being bottle fed. And the employees there that were doing the cat adoption said that they had just rescued them from a kill shelter. Many babies end up being murdered because of irresponsible pet parents not fixing their animals. Why we need a subsection halfway through a children's book that demonizes spay and neuter, which would result in more animals being abandoned and or killed, is beyond me. But this pissed me off. Like, before I was like, whatever, this book is kind of lame, I'm not really into it, I'm not really enjoying it, I'm not the audience for it though, so like, whatever. But when I got to this section, I'm like, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. I'm actually just irritated now because I'm upsetty now because this is inappropriate. I can't recommend this book to anybody. Now rusting because a couple has gone back inside, Dante admits that he was the runt of his pack and he got picked on, so he left. The next morning, they leave with directions on where to go, and Mars isn't there because she is still upsetty about being fixed, but also is happier. But at least she is happier with her name Mars because of Dante's assistance. The husband wishes them both well on their journey away. I bet you can't guess where the story is going to go for the second half. They continue on their journey together, but Saxon gets lazy and starts eating junk food until Dante kicks him into gear again and they bathe and keep going. They get to a farm where Saxon tries to get help from the sheep, but they just scream at him as an outsider and won't help him, and everyone else is an outsider. He finds a goat who will converse with him, and the goat is like, yeah, the sheep are kind of racist and dumb, and they only talk to others of their kind, so, don't ask them for help. The mother bear from the woods catches up, attacks them on the farm, and the wolf and the fox help the farm collie to herd the sheep before scuttling off. Saxon worries that the bear will always chase him. I guess we're forgetting that bears, one, this is winter. They are in winter, and this bear is chasing them across country to New England. 2, they got on a train. 3, I guess we're forgetting that bears have territories that they just kind of stay in. So dumb. How did she know which direction they went in? They are crossing country in vehicles. Now Dante is howling at the moon, and he explains to Saxon that the weird feeling he has sometimes is a description of love. Saxon says that he has love for his sister and his mom, but not his dad and brother. They travel further, get to a town where Saxon wants to explore because he smells something nice. Sounds like it might be a vixen, because we also just discussed love. He gets back to Dante as the train is leaving, but lost his quill feather again. He convinces Dante to go looking for it with him. They miss the train, and he says that they missed the train, and he says that it must have happened for a reason, so let's make the most of our time here while we wait for the next train to come in. Dante isn't sure about this and feels like they are in danger by going through the city. I mean, obviously. They meet a pair of raccoons, one of which has rabies, and the other one, which is his lover, who is desperately in love with the sick one and won't leave him. Saxton and Dante are invited into the house for food after being kind to him, and they help hunt for food and are charmed by the two lovers. Dante later decides to tell Saxton about the true reason that he left him. Now, it just had me going, that is this raccoon with rabies an analogy for a gay couple where one has HIV? I don't know. I don't know. Dante later decides to tell Saxton about the true reason that he left home, which is that he was failing his pack and felt a lot of shame towards his father and his family. Everyone disliked him for his weakness and his disability caused by his weakness, which is his missing eye, because that was a botched hunting of an animal. But his father said that he loved him regardless of anything else. Still, Dante ran away to no longer be a blight on the pack, and he says that he is sharing this all now because someday it might be too late for him. The raccoons direct the two wolves towards the street cats for living assistance. I don't know why they don't plan to stay here, but the leader of the street cats shows them around town and gives them tips on hunting and moving silently. Oh yeah, and the raccoons gave Dante a dog collar so that he could fit in more or blend in more with the city folk, so he just looks like a domesticated wolf, apparently. All it takes is putting a collar on a wolf, and I guess people stop asking questions. The cat then shows the wolf and the fox its community and basically introduce themselves as communists. Quote, "We accept donations, not pity. Everyone here brings in their fair share, and together we divide everything among us. Territory, shelter, food, water, you name it. No one owns any of it, but everyone has it. This way of living is the only reason we've managed to survive. Alone, most of us would be as good as dead." Saxton and Dante stared at the cats around them. Most of the felines were thin and sickly. Even Dante, who was always the last to eat at his pack, knew whatever food he earned was fair, even generous, for what he contributed. Tootsie, however, was clearly the leader of her colony, but did not earn more food than the others. "How can you live like this?" he objected in a hushed tone. "If everyone's hungry, someday you'll tear each other apart." "Look around you, Dante," she said patiently. When everyone's just getting by, there's no one to get angry at. But if someone got more than everyone else, well, then that's when the nails and teeth come out." Saxton frowned. "That sounds terribly unfair. I can't imagine a life without a choice of keeping what's yours." The cat lapped the last of the fish and licked her paws. "Then you've never been poor, Foxy. You've never been poor." In this case, doesn't it just mean that you're a poor hunter? Because we're talking about survival instincts. We're talking about, like, you just going to get food. Again, it's trying to make it feels like a comment on something in the human world, but it doesn't really translate to me very well with animals, because you're just, like, talking about food. There is no poor. You're either, like, able to hunt or you're not able to hunt. And that's a skill issue. Tootsie the alley cat then takes the wolf and the fox to a bar where people are hanging out and singing and dancing. Tootsie explains that this is what people do when things are so hard to make ends meet, and things are only getting harder, probably because some greedy people are taking everything. They listen to some of the people dance and sing and get excited, and Saxton sees a vixen at the center of the dancing people, and he is stricken. Her name is Two-Step, by the way. So these people in the bar are apparently so drunk and so, like, just whatever, that they don't care that there is a fox, two foxes, and a wolf dancing in this bar. They don't freaking care. Tootsie introduces Saxton to Two-Step and then takes Dante away so that the two can be alone. Now, Dante is more concerned about getting the feather to New Hampshire than seemingly Saxton is, when it was Saxton's quest to begin with for his quote-unquote adopted father. Quote, "He followed Tootsie out of the door and snorted. He's got a focus of a pup." The cat laughed, but for the first time, the wolf actually appreciated it. "Why's that?" "That crow feather around his neck? We're supposed to take that to New Hampshire. At this rate, I'm not sure that it'll happen." "He'll come around," Tootsie said gently. "Females have this magical effect this time of year. You're no more immune than Foxy is." "And what about your magic?" Dante challenged, but the cat only shook her head. "Males are a load of trouble, and then some. There's nothing fun about being a single mom." "Funny you should say that. When we were in Missouri, we met a pair of scrapyard dogs who couldn't have any pups. Couldn't tell you how badly they wanted 'em. Got fixed, right?" Dante bowed his head. Yeah, they were. Once outside, the music died down, and the only noise they could hear was the sound of their nails clacking along the pavement. I can understand that, I guess. I mean, if your mate is gonna stick around, why not have a couple of little ones to keep you on your toes? Her smile became a little sad then, but she tried not to show it. There are too many felines in my life right now, and not enough resources to even think about having kittens of my own. Maybe someday, if things ever get better. There are a lot of things that I can buy into when I'm reading a story about animals from an animal perspective. This is not one of them. The overabundance of kittens in the street that end up getting caught and killed at kill shelters is because of the intrinsic breeding when an animal is in heat. It's not planned pregnancy, it's not family planning, and it's really not a choice. The way that this is also treating the dogs for being fixed is another way to demonize pet owners being responsible in an unbelievable way to the story. There are other human-like traits that I can accept among the animals, but discussion of spay and neuter and family planning in a children's book is not something that I can accept or buy into in this story. Returning to Saxton and Two-Step, she learns about him, asks him what he believes in, but we get no answers, and the story immediately moves on to something else without even giving a reaction to Saxton, to the question. Quote, Paul believes that a man is defined by his actions, not his name or anything else. Not even the most basic nature he was born with. She paused. What do you believe in, Saxton? The pub was full to bursting well into the early morning. Saxton and Two-Step made a nimble beeline for the exit, each of them taking one last look at the people and their music. The vixen led Saxton around the town, showing him the houses that were friendly to foxes and the houses that were not. At last, she stopped before a small rectangular window that led to a basement. This book will do things like this where it tries to sort of hint at a deep conversation, but not actually let the characters have it, except to, inappropriately talk about spay and neuter. Then Two-Step takes Saxton to her home and introduces him to her son, Boots. So apparently only one of her kids is still with her. We move over to Dante, who is pacing, wondering where Saxton is, and one of the alley cats says that he is probably getting laid by the vixen. At this point, the sexual relationship of the animals being discussed in this book for children is weird, already unnecessary for what the story is, but exceptionally weird. Dante is told not to worry about it too much, for the next train doesn't leave until morning, but he's still uneasy. Quote, but if he gets too comfortable, he'll stop caring. He'll just stick around and forget everything that we've been through just to get here. What is Dante even talking about? He said that he was trying to get Saxton to accept his apology, and at this point, I don't even know what Dante wants. Why is he more invested in getting to New Hampshire than Saxton, who wanted to do it theoretically for his other dad? If Saxton changes his opinions on what he wants to do, it's not him giving up on whatever that is, because he didn't even make a promise to Quill. Bizarrely, we get this exchange. Quote, Tootsie stretched out of her cubbyhole and greeted her fellow cats good morning. She walked up to Dante, who was so wound up in his thoughts that he didn't notice her take a seat before him. He's not you, you know. If he wants to settle, he can. He can do whatever he wants. There are things that are more important than what you want, like honor and upholding your promises. So we're getting a lecture on honor from the guy who ran away from his pack in shame when his family said that they loved him and they didn't want him to go. Step off me, Dante. This doesn't make any sense. It's just doing it so that it can give another freaking lecture in this book. What even is your character but a tool to say things at certain times? What are any of these characters but that? He seriously has no sense of a personhood. The cat then takes Dante aside to lecture him. Quote, she stroked Dante's right foreleg with one of her own paws. Could you follow me for a moment? She led him away from the members of her colony and to a more secluded corner of the store. After looking around them to make sure that no one was listening, Tootsie whispered, Not everyone values honor and promises the way that you and I do. None of my cats will tell you this, but we've seen plenty of our members leave because they didn't like the rules. And you know what? I didn't stop them. It's not up to me to tell them how to live. I can only offer an opinion, at least, and leadership at most. You have to remember that he's a fox, Dante. Foxes don't have the need to obey rules and respect authority wired into them like wolves do. There is nothing that you can do to change that. He's different, he said with conviction. Yeah, I don't doubt that. But let me put it this way. He's only a fox, and you're only a wolf. And me? I'm just a stinky old cat. We might have big ideas in our heads, but when it comes down to it, we need food, water, and a little bit of companionship like everyone else. Your friend? He's in his prime. So are you. He wants, probably needs, a mate. You want to deprive him of that chance? With a huff, Dante shook his head and looked out one of the dirty windows. It's like you said. We need our own kind. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's my problem. I don't even have an issue with the fox getting distracted by his first infatuation while traveling, but the way that this book is treating it, like it is talking down to the reader, makes it really icky. It's making everything regarding mating and animals icky, and it's not even necessary for the story this is telling. The vixen even has nothing to do with the last, third of this book, you'll see, because, you're like, okay, this is what we're doing now, is we're getting distracted by the vixen. Ha, psych, that is not what we are doing. It's gonna get wild. Randomly, it's gonna get wild. Saxton bonds with the child fox and then agrees to go and get food with Two Toes and her son. Meanwhile, Dante is having a reunion with a lady wolf that he knows named Timber. I don't know why we needed a collar to roam around town when apparently no one cared to even notice or make a comment on these animals walking around town. It was just kind of there. Timber is apparently Dante's sister, who is violently beautiful, as Dante describes her. After the wolf was just lectured about how the fox needed to do his duty of taking his feather to New Hampshire because of honor and a job, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The wolf's sister is out here saying that she came looking for Dante because the pack needs him. The pack wants him. Dad has been upset this whole time that he has been gone, and Dante is pretending that he is too proud to go back. Whatever happened to honor and freaking duty that only you understand, Dante? I get it, imperfect character, blah, blah, blah. Then don't at me with freaking monologuing about how the fox doesn't understand duty because he's infatuated with a female. Let's just say Boots is just lucky that they're not lions. Dante admits he doesn't want to go back because it's a matter of pride. Everyone was laughing at him. He's a joke, and so he doesn't want to be in the back. So prove yourself is what I say to him. Your family wants you. I thought you cared about honor. You weren't even kicked out, but you're telling other people that you were. Can you have some consistency somewhere? Dante says that he won't return home until he's seen Saxton through to the end, though Timber is jealous of the loyalty Saxton somehow has gotten from her brother that she and her pack have never had. She accepts this and leaves Dante to do his thing. Why she doesn't stick around to help him see it through so then she can deliver him back to the pack in the end, I don't really know. It all seems very pointless since it doesn't affect anything, okay? This same thing could have happened if she never showed up, and then they get to the end of wherever, what's going to happen for the last bit of the story, and then he decides to go back to his family because they completed their goal of getting to New Hampshire. The way that Two-Step goes about getting food is that there are nice people in town who throw food at her and her kid. This bakery lady brought out this whole basket of goods like eggs. This bakery lady brought out this whole basket of bread and eggs for the foxes, and Saxton judges her for this and says that your son needs to know how to hunt. Don't tell me that this is the way that you live. You are not helping him. And though Two-Step is offended by being told how to parent her own child, she accepts this guy telling her what to do and says, fine, but you'll have to help me teach him. Returning then to Dante, he's going out getting food because he is hungry and weak. He attacks a sheep and gets attacked by a dog. When he hears a gun coming for him, he apologizes and begs to the dog to let him go. This dog was biting him and he was ignoring it. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't need to beg this dog to not hurt him. He could just yeet him off because he is a wolf, but okay. Not to say that there are not dogs that cannot fight off wolves, because you've got the wolfhound for a reason, but I don't think that this is a wolfhound. I don't think we have any idea of what kind of animal this is, but they are smaller than him. So the bullet grazes the wolf's face, and he only wants to leave now because he is remembering his family again. I feel like we lost the plot of this book a long time ago, because what are we even doing here? Saxton returns to the Alley Cats, saying that he wants to stay with Two-Step and start a family. Cat wants servants, let's be real. There is nothing that says Dante can't stick around and remain friends as an equal, not indentured. What the frick is this? maybe the cat's like, maybe one day you'll understand how good you had it as a friend to a wolf. Bro, you were telling him to remain in his life as a debt slave instead of a friend. Dante wakes up in on a metal table, surrounded by humans who cut the collar off of him and tag him and then drop him into a habitat with other wolves and just leave him there. Of course, he gets into a fight almost immediately with the other males, and the male, who is a hybrid wolf, was trying to attack pups. A female in charge shows up, and can you guess what her name is? Pick a sexy one. That's right, it's Jezebel. Jezebel runs the habitat. Glad that you could guess. We get this description, quote, "I see you are new to the preserve. When did you arrive?" There was something in the way that she carried herself that made Dante shiver. The feeling reminded him vaguely of his sister, but held none of the familiarity. Let's remember his sister was described as violently beautiful. Is this more incest? I know that animals are different. Do we need to bring this into humanized animal kingdom? Just saying. Dante is introduced then to Jezebel's mate, Cassius, and the other thick members of the pack, Trigger, Pistol, and Whiplash. Then he's fed as Jezebel's honored guest at the pack celebration. Now Saxton is laying with Two-Step and being intimate and nuzzling her, but realizing that he traded his bro for a hoe, and maybe that was bad, actually. Saxton decides that he is going to leave the female fox to go and look for his friend, and says as much. She is upset by this, and he says, well, frickin' deal with it, because bros before hoes. Did you not know that? He tracks down that Saxton is at a wolf preserve, and Two-Step shows up. I don't know where her son is at this point, not with her, as she was planning to help Saxton find his wolf friend, but she is being rude, calling him stupid, and being mad. Quote, Saxton smiled in spite of himself. They tracked in silence until they turned into a road that he should have taken earlier. You seem calm, he managed to say. I had time to cool off and think things over, she said. You know, I've been getting along fine without you or anyone else for years. That won't change whether or not you stay with me. You were very angry, he couldn't help saying. I still am. I don't like being teased. I don't like thinking something good is on its way, only to have it get up and leave. Two-Step growled. And don't get me started on hurting my little kit. I'm sorry. Good. You should be. Something tells me she's not good at picking men. I don't know why you can't just have people change directions in a story without upsetting someone. This is a trope that I'm actually so bored of. I mentioned it earlier in this book, actually. People can just, agree to do something different. They can talk, they can actually share, they can actually, be considerate of one another, especially if you were already starting to court somebody romantically. Maybe be like, hey, I'm kind of worried about my friend. I'd like to go and find him, instead of being just disappearing and telling her to deal with being put in second place because she doesn't matter that much and you'll move on. Dante then meets a lady wolf that he is taken with, but she is a tail, or rather a low-ranking member of the pride of the pack, while he is considered a high-ranking member of the pack. They go hunting for a time period and collect 3 elk. The higher ranks eat first, and the tails get the scraps. He brings a leg to the lady wolf that he has taken with, and she says that there is another who would like to meet him later. So come to a certain location once the sun goes down so that you can meet this person. Saxton sneaks into the reserve at night and hears Dante talk about the politics of what is going on, and knows that he's got a thing for this lady wolf, named Juniper. The fox and the wolf are taken to this other group of wolves within the reserve who are the rebels. Quote, "Aye," the wolf said with a smile. "It's good to know that you remember my name, especially with so many of us. Naturally, you know Juniper. The other wolf who escorted you here are Arrow and Fable." He motioned to the black and white wolf and the nearly blue wolf. "Welcome to the rebellion. Our membership is at 8, but still growing. Including you, we make 9, a good number." Saxton looked around him, feeling eyes casting judgment on his presence already. "Excuse me, Buckeye," he began. "I know a little of what is happening here, but would you be so kind as to enlighten me with respect to the history?" Buckeye's brows crawled up his forehead. "Forgive my reservations, Fox, but although I've been told that Dante is your friend, this is not your fight." "Perhaps not. At least not in the sense that it would be a fight for my kind. However, it would be a fight for justice, which I do believe in." "Lonely thieves don't believe in justice," Arrow mocked. "They believe in survival at any costs." The frick is this rebellion? You're another pack. Just freaking dip. Also, what do animals consider freaking justice? Because This whole pack thing, is this not like a natural instinct thing? Now it is a justice and an injustice. You see, they don't like Jezebel and her pack because it's more than 30. She's a tyrant, basically, and she keeps killing the puppies so that no dog can grow older and stronger than her and then take over. Obviously, pecking order of her friends eating first and everyone else gets scraps is also pissing people off. They claim that they can't start a new pack because Jezebel will just hunt them down and warn them with starvation. However, Jezebel is letting and encouraging the murder of the young so that she can remain in power. This isn't really sustainable, but okay, it's also happening on a nature reserve where there are humans watching to make sure that the animals survive. You know, usually when this is going on, when you got animals on a preservation where they've got like a hospital and all of that, they are monitoring the animals. They would remove the one that is going around murdering the babies because the whole point is to keep them safe so they can grow. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know why this whole thing had to happen on a freaking nature reserve other than to be like, oh yeah, they can't just start their own pack and then run away. Clearly, they could, though. Saxton tells them that they can't fight against nature, so even taking down Jezebel will not fix the way that things are. Quote, I thought Dante was a good judge of character, she snarled. You mock our cause? After that, Saxton chuckled. No, not your cause, but your willingness to believe change can be that simple. I'm not sure that Dante told you, as it's rather personal, but I was raised by a crow. My brother and sister, on the other paw, matured under normal conditions. In the end, though I knew them for only a brief time, my brother and sister, lonely thieves to the letter, each had some measure of compassion, just as I still have some measure of selfishness. What's your point, Fox? My point is that it is difficult to control our basic natures. We are all selfish, are we not? We all have ideals, do we not? Well, if you truly want to keep the balance of power under control, a new leader is not the only answer. Again, the speeches don't make sense, and they just seem like they are there in order to be righteous, but they are lame. I'm sorry, I don't have any better way to say it. He says I was only with my siblings for a brief time. He was only with the crow for a brief time. Calling them lonely thieves. They are still in a pack. He's the one that chose to go off on his own, and they are the lonely thieves. Okay. Now it feels like it's just trying to be preachy, but in a way that doesn't work with the world as it is set up. Everyone glazes Saxton because he's a revolutionary, and unlike any other fox that has ever existed. He asks how these wolves will lead differently than Jezebel. Is this him saying that he wants to be king of the wolves because, like, he's different? Saxton follows the mongrel around after he is ordered by Jezebel to kill the pup. So the mongrel is a half-breed that was running around just killing puppies as they exist. He snaps a bunch of necks, but takes the runts of each litter to the gates to give them to the woman who runs the reserve. So clearly, like, they are being watched. There are cameras out there. The people that take care of this reserve are picking up baby puppy bodies, knowing that a wolf is killing them and doing nothing for it. They would remove the danger wolf. Don't worry. As they thank Solomon, the mongrel, for bringing them the puppies, I'm sure that there is no blood on his lips to insinuate that he is doing anything wrong either. This is just his way of fighting back against Jezebel because he doesn't want to kill all of the puppies, so he just saves the runts. Saxton returns to the rebellion, saying that the mongrel has a heart and is a pawn being used by Jezebel to play both sides. But if they want to talk to him, they might be able to convert him, and Jezebel's reign will fall. They all agree that Jezebel is going down with or without murder, and they're okay with it either way. I don't know why they bother talking about how she used to be a good leader for a moment, and we should try to make peace, because immediately after that they go, meh, she's not likely to take peace as an option, and Solomon is likely to kill her anyway, so whatever ends we get are fine as long as it brings her to an end. They also determine that this will be the attack, and they will have to follow through when it goes down. It's going to come at the next full moon feast. That is the plan. When the inner circle is all fat and happy and not going to be at their best for fighting, Dante tries to get Saxton to go and not risk himself for this, but Saxton is like, nah, bro. We're bros, and bros ride into battle together. Saxton tries to take advantage of Jezebel, but she is stronger than him and threatens to kill him, so he says that he has heard some stuff about an uprising among the wolves, and so she decides that she's going to use him as a spy, and she believes that he is going to help her. He throws Buckeye under the bus, saying that he is the one that is setting stuff up to meet at the rebellion, and they set up when to meet out the rebellion leader the next day, because they're going to call a meeting and then out this rebellion before it happens. This results in a fight where Buckeye is defeated and taken away by the caretakers of the reserve. So again, obviously they are there, but they have put no foot down on the murder of the pups. Jezebel believes Saxton is on her side and is her guest, while the others in the rebellion see him as a coward and a traitor. Saxton and Dante agree to stick around and overthrow Jezebel, as it's what Buckeye would have wanted. Jezebel's having a huge feast in honor of Saxton and the defeat of the rebellion, since he helped capture the traitor's leader. He feels sick eating the meat while the other wolves starve, and Jezebel is doing dictator things over here and giving speeches. Quote, Jezebel laughed and eagerly told the tale. She bragged out about how strong Cassius was against Buckeye, how Buckeye had no chance from the start and was unfit to be a leader. Yesterday had proven her right. The ferocious are rewarded in life, she preached, and there is no room for compassion. One must harden their hearts to lead and control. Feed everyone equally, and no one will be strong. Let the weak and lowly lie in their beds that they have made for themselves, so that the powerful may prosper. Saxton waits for the timing to be right, and then asks, quote, the mongrel. He's so violent. How do you manage to control him? He was damaged from the start, Fox. He's insecure of himself, resentful and full of hate. Destroy his hope, and you can control him with just an ounce of kindness. The mongrel is hopelessly loyal to me, and viciously so, for these very reasons. What did you do? She smiled and showed the tip of her canine. I sent Trigger to take his face. I sent Pistol to take his skin. I sent Whiplash to take his dignity. He was already born a half-wolf, and now he is a half-wolf that's as naked and ugly as a human baby. Who would talk to him? No one, of course. No one but me. She lowered her head and leveled her eyes with Saxton's, and her voice came out in a venomous hiss. While misfits are born, monsters are made. I am the master of my monsters. Like, this speech is happening in a public place, like, while all of the other wolves are gathered and having their feast or their not feast as they are hungering, waiting for the scraps to hit them. And I don't know why nobody is responding to this gloating, especially because, like, okay, so you're saying this, Solomon can be told by any of these people that you created the situation in which he is in. Maybe not a good thing to gloat about. So surprised, the mongrel Solomon actually heard all of this because it is a public venue that she is gloating in this at. He's gotten mad, charges her, attacks her. A fight breaks out amongst all of the wolves, and during all of this battle between the wolves, guess what happens? That's right, Mama Bear shows up and just starts attacking Saxton because she is still after him and somehow got into the animal reserve. They're not even in the wild anymore. How did she sneak into the animal reserve? Like, I can at least buy Saxton sneaking in as a little freaking wolf, or as a little freaking fox. But how does a mother bear sneak in? Did she just like put on the jacket and put on the little hat and just like a stethoscope and was like, I'm a doctor, I'm a veterinarian, and they just let her in? It just feels so ridiculous. In all of the chaos, Jezebel gets away. Dante bites the bear, and she runs away, bleeding too. So they catch up to Jezebel, and they give her a chance at mercy because they are better dogs than her, is what they claim. Better in what way? Where do they get their morality from? They kill things to feed. They kill other animals. Like, we don't have a sense of, like, where their morality comes from to be like, you're a better dog than them. Is this not just the way of the world? What are they judging stuff on? And did Quill not be like, hey, you do what you gotta do. Don't judge people. I don't understand what it is actually trying to do here. It's humanized them to the point that it doesn't make sense, but also keeps them as animals, and the two do not make sense. The two do not mesh in the way that this has done it. None of this matters, though. Jezebel refuses to bow down to Juniper's leadership. She's not going to bow down to anybody, and then tries to run again. Solomon catches her and drags her back, breaks some branches from a nearby tree, and somehow starts a fire I think he uses the broken fencing around the animal shelter, whatever, that was electric, but I'm not sure how he did it because it was just a single sentence. Quote, she kicked dirt in the air, momentarily blinding the wolves closest to her, and escaped. Solomon went after her. Despite his shorter legs, he had more strength and tenacity than any full-blooded wolf could hope for. He grabbed, I like how it's always, hey, they are completely disadvantaged in every way, but they're still better than you. Can we stop doing that? He grabbed Jezebel by her flanks and grabbed her down. She collapsed face first into the dirt, and before she could get away again, Solomon grabbed her by the scruff as though there were nothing more than a wayward pup and pulled her into a blazing tree. Saul! Saxton cried out. He knew what the half-wolf intended to do. Solomon didn't listen, and instead he reached above from him to break off a branch and set the leaves around him ablaze. For the first time, Jezebel's eyes filled with true emotion, abject horror. What are you doing? You'll kill us both! As the circle of fire crept closer and closer to the pocket of land they sat upon grew smaller and smaller, Solomon said in a calm voice, that's the idea, Jezebel. And you still just wonder, where are the caretakers of this place? How is this place on fire? How did this get this far? I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. It's just drama for drama's sake. Watching the aftermath of the fire, Saxton is licking his missing leg stump until, yeah, because the bear took his leg. That's the one thing. The bear took one of his legs before the wolf helped him. Anyway, he's licking his stump until it stops bleeding. Juniper leads them to where they need to go to be on their way because now there is a section of the fence that is gone, so now they are going to leave. Feels like the author is kind of done with this story, and so the interaction is minimal as it just needs to like come to an end. Saxton offers Juniper to come with them for their travels as he and Dante are going to leave, and she mentions that she can't she has a pack now and she has a tracking collar on that will bring the humans right to them. But Dante also has a tracking collar on him in this scene. He just bites it right off. So, like, they could take the tracking collar off of her. Why was that an excuse? He doesn't do anything for Juniper's tracking collar, though. Saxton also hopes that Juniper forgives him for putting Dante in danger with the plan that he had and for putting Buckeye in danger with the plan that he had. But also not putting in danger of the fire that could have burned the infrastructure in the building down that has Buckeye freaking in it recovering. Saxton and Dante bicker a bit over the damage done to Saxton's leg, and Dante feels like a failure. Saxton says it's okay, it's just punishment for his failure, but it's whatever. Then they go to sleep. Saxton then tells Dante that he should go home to his family so that he doesn't regret not seeing them. Dante doesn't want to go, and Saxton says that he should go even harder. Saxton gets to his destination and finally meets Quill's sister, Fiddle. I don't know, aren't we into winter now? He tells her the story of how they met and what he did. She tells him the story of why Quill left, which is that he was too kind, that he warned all of the other birds of a bad storm coming before he warned his mate, which resulted in his mate's death. And a lightning strike on the tree that they lived in, and his babies were all killed. Quill felt so bad that he left. Saxton leaves the feather with Fiddle, and she tells him that it's time to close the story of his friend and now go and live life for himself. Dante returns home. His parents and sister welcome him warmly, while his brother Rush is a jealous prat, telling him to leave because he is so strong now. I don't know what this book's deal is with brothers or male family members where they're all just mean. Quote, it is true. When you left, I had a chance of taking on timber when Mom and Father are gone. Maybe I would have lost. Maybe I would have moved up to it being an eye or a fang. But now that you're here, you've shoved me down the pecking order. Now I don't have a chance. Rush, that's not my fault, Dante said patiently. Just let me finish, he huffed. If you stay, you're not gonna lead the pack. Timber will, and she will always, 'cause you'll let her. Then you'll never be mates with that female that you met, because you're stuck here, and you're just gonna be okay with that, like you always are? Why are you telling me this? Why do you care? I don't. I want to move up, but I can't do that with you in my way, he said a little too vehemently. Then he stomped off, fuming so hotly that there may as well have been steam coming from his ears. And Dante watched him go, thinking over what he had said. Like, they're all petulant. Why are they all petulant? Why can't Dante just, like, have a good relationship with his family and reconcile and realize that he had acted rashly and was wrong, but also realize that he wants to be in Saxton's life, so he is going to leave and form his own pack so his sister and his little brother like as an act of kindness, can lead this back. Like, why does it have to be petulance? It just reads immaturity to me. His mother and sister encourage him to make his own life and to leave and do what he wants to do, and so he does. Saxton stays with Fiddle until she leaves to migrate, as the birds leave in groups as opposed to all at the same time. He is also given a warm welcome to come back whenever he wants, but she won't be back until the end of winter. They say goodbye, and she gives him directions to the train station. The mama bear catches up to Saxton one more time and tries to kill him. She knocks down a tree on top of herself, pinning her down and making her stuck. Saxton offers to help her, but she says that she will kill him still, and so Saxton leaves her there thinking, quote, "It was strange to want to be good, yet to be forced to make terrible choices. He wasn't sure what kind of creature this made him. He supposed all he could do in this unkind and unjust world, in this beautiful and exciting world, was to live and be true." In the epilogue, Dante catches up with Saxton, and they say that they are returning to the ladies that they found. If the ladies won't have them back, then they'll go and find new families. How heartwarming. You're going to be so tied to Quill that you travel somewhere else, but then you're like, I want to start a family, but I'm so totally ready to just abandon whatever if people didn't accept me abandoning freaking them. Genre/audience. Like I said, this is young, reads middle grade, Homeward Bound, The Rescuers, Oliver and Company, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Aristocats, like that kind of thing, especially with the way that Saxton talks to the wolf, with how the cat talks to the wolf about honor and duty, with how Quill talks to Saxton. It feels very much like it is lecturing for a younger audience, and it has big Spook's Apprentice vibes. However, I can't actually recommend this book for that age group because of the issues I've mentioned with the sex talk, with the mate talk, with the fixing talk, and also I can't recommend this to older readers because it is just so immature. But not to say there are not readers who are older who like immature books, but I can't recommend this to the audience that I think it fits. Now for the hook, in the opening few chapters, we know that who our main character is and what drives him, Saxton and his family. Saxton is a juvenile fox who got separated from his family when a group of hunters came into the territory, and now with his new guide Quill the Crow, he is being led down a trail in a Homeward Bound style journey to reunite with his family. Will he be reunited? That's the question of the action in the first bit of the book. Now, there is one thing that I think weakens this ultimate goal that we have in the very early pages, and that's the statement that his father and his brother may turn on him, or that they are already vile at him and see him as an enemy by the time that he reaches them. This ends up discouraging the idea of reuniting with the family because he knows that he is aged out of being accepted by his dad, but his sister and his mom will still be happy to have him. So it just leaves the reader going, why am I hoping for you to get back to your family when your family is going to hate you and kick you out? That means that you are not going to have a good time when you get there, so I am not going to cheer for you to get there. So then what is this story even about anymore? Something else that adds to the weirdness of this is the grooming feeling from the crow to the fox, because you have this elder guide telling the fox that his family doesn't want him while also expressing that I might want you instead, which might be attempting to be heartwarming, but instead it feels icky to me. Like, change the situation from a fox and a crow to a man and a child, and the child is trying to find their parents, and the man is like, your family doesn't want you, but I want you though. Because if the crow can decide to become family with the fox and break the animal kingdom rules, why can't the foxes just act like a family outside of kits no longer being kits? After finishing the book, the hook and beginning have nothing to do with the projected story of the rest of the book and gives no explanation or idea as to where this is going, when it ultimately ends with a big fight scene at a nature reserve, which makes that come out as even more random and inappropriate. Descriptions. The descriptions are perfectly serviceable for this book and the vibe that it's going for and for its audience. A bad choice in the formatting is that the book doesn't really have any indicators of scene change. It just has paragraph after running paragraph where we're now suddenly no longer with Saxton and now we're with Dante, or vice versa, and there's just nothing that establishes that is the scene change. World building. The world building is so odd. They'll know who Mars is and what blankets are and cars and trucks are, but not what mannequins is, what coffee is, what clothing or a hose are. The wolf will explain what love is, but not know other things with the world. I assume part of this is to set apart the human world from the animal world, but I think that it needed more world building in that area to make it more believable, and it didn't really decide on what the animals would know or not know. I think it would have been easier to just let animals know these concepts, so that stuff like learning how to read and Mars and that didn't seem so outlandish. When it comes to characters, we don't get much of a family dynamic set up before they split up, and at the very least, Russell and Dad Fox both hate Saxton from the start, while at the same time giving him a special name because they thought that he was going to be special. Like, don't forget, Dad was part of that naming thing where he was like, my son is going to be special. I don't really understand why Dad is so much meaner to Saxton than to Russell, and there is not much to really discover with these since it doesn't spend any time with the family. Even when he's reunited with the family, it's all just summarized together to quickly get it over with to move on to the journey of what the story actually wants to be about. Dante has a weird juxtaposition of needing to be a pessimistic old man who got kicked out of his group, but also saying optimism is stupid. I get that he is likely depressed, but for how hard he hits everything sucks, life sucks, and you will be eaten up, he also goes out of his way to be nicer to a fox for reasons. His character also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. First, he wants to pay Saxton back for helping him and also for killing his friend, which, fair enough, but when he is a pessimist like he is and he thinks Saxton's sentimentality is silly, why does he care more about the road trip to New Hampshire than Saxton once Saxton starts experiencing his first infatuation? Like, why does he care? You can't tell me Dante cares about duty when he abandoned his family. The relationship of all of the characters in this are rushed, and it feels less focused on development and more focused on the doing of things, which also shows in how the storyline doesn't really connect into anything. It's just like thing happened, thing happened, thing happened, thing happened, and the bear follows through all of it for no sensical reason. For the plot, I felt like the plot gets lost. What could have been an odyssey started by a young fox being left behind after hunters attacked, got a taste of adventure before he found his family again, and then set out on adventure again because of the new things that he learned while finding his family, changed into a weird coming of age and animal instinct infused family dynamics that operates only when it's convenient. Again, you could have had a happy family with Saxton and still gone on the adventure, and it would have made more sense. Themes and other include growing up, coming of age, found family, redemption, forgiveness, not fitting in. It is all very straightforward and preachy, reading like a children's book with little tact. Overall, initially, I could have suggested this as an annual adventure for kids, but its odd treatment of mating and family planning or spay-neutering with animals, and some of its odd descriptions and the incest, the underlying incest and grooming, it frankly makes me uncomfortable to recommend. It talks down to the reader if you're older, and it doesn't actually give any of the characters time to study or grow or reflect on anything. The narrative style reads very much like it is for a younger audience, where it is more outward-facing, and the lessons are in the speeches for the younger readers, but with some of the bizarre inserts, there's just nowhere I can recommend it. The bear chasing them across states was also weird. The wildlife reserve section was weird, and it felt like it forgot what the story was, and it inserted random happenings rather than knowing how to help Dante and Saxton grow up to be who they needed to be. Aside from all of that, the characters felt shallow, and the journey really doesn't track, so it makes the ending feel pointless. And then it still tries to be deep at the end. I don't know. Book wasn't for me, but that was The Hunt for Elswhere, which I think that title could have been used better too if the fox went on a journey on his own just looking for adventure. But disappointment. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Have you read this book? Will you read this book? Looking forward to the discussion. With all that said, have a great weekend and don't die.
To my children, Tommy, Ike, and Annabelle, if you forget everything else I ever said in the lifetime we shared together, I need you to remember 3 things. 1. Minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature, God's design, to do harm, and every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a black widow. A woman who destroys the life and the mercy of her care for no other reason but the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these kinds of women that you should put them down, for they are no better than the men who tarnished them. However, take no glee in what must be done. Finding any life so far gone, a black hole is where someone's heart should be, leaves only one solution: the mercy of death, and it's a tragedy when it happens. Make no mistake, a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God sees worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she's living. That is why the devil will do everything he can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you can commit during your lifetime, be it out of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent. For the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, extending further than you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach. Think about every decision you make, every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you, be them destructions or blessings, rumors or history been made. The truth of the matter is, your life will be controlled not by the truth of what you've done, but by the way others carry on about you. And the thoughts of others are more real in the long term than what you know to be true. It won't stop affecting you just 'cause it ain't real, and no matter the life you've lived, most men can't outrun what's written in them in ink. It ain't hopeless though. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the means of the news of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than a family you build for yourself. What you put together is worth fighting for. Protect your loved ones with your life, and they'll give theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for those you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult to theirs will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man who hates you will stop at nothing until one of you is dead. It's a mistake to believe anything different. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw lawmen or by someone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and your kin. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years I've seen the worst of man, I ain't found another way around man's desire to conquer against all else. There ain't a changing of that mind, and sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, least of all through lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I don't want to be right. But what I do want is for my kids to live a better life than the one I did and avoid the mistakes that I made while finding the truth and purpose in what matter more than gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned that my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done isn't what people remember me for, but who y'all are going to become. That'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.